One of the single greatest achievements of the 20th century, it wasn't landing on the moon or even the internet. It was something far more personal. A dramatic, incredible increase in how long we all get to live. So what does this gift of extra time actually mean for us? That's what we're going to dig into.
Get this. In many parts of the world, life expectancy shot up by 30 years. I mean, think about that. That's not just a couple of extra birthdays. That's a whole second adulthood. It's a 30-year bonus that has completely reshaped what it means to be human.
And you can see just how staggering that leap was. I mean, look at these numbers. In the US, you go from an average of 47 years in 1900 to 77 by the year 2000. That is just wow. And this wasn't magic, right? It was the triumph of public health. Stuff we totally take for granted now, like basic sanitation, vaccination campaigns, and way better care for moms and babies.
Okay, so this gift of time is amazing, but it forces us to ask a really, really important question. It's great that we're living longer, for sure, but are we living better? Are these extra years full of energy and purpose, or are they just tacked on at the end, marked by sickness and decline? And this is where we have to introduce a really key idea. We all know about lifespan, right? That's just how long you live. But what we should be talking about is health span. The Linus Pauling Institute has a great definition for it. It's the number of years a person is healthy, mobile, mentally sharp, and free from pain and chronic disease. Basically, it's your healthy years. Yeah, to put it simply, lifespan is all about the quantity of your years. Health span, on the other hand, is all about the quality of those years. It's the difference between just, being alive and truly living. And here's the big problem, the real heart of the issue. This quote from the Stanford Center on Longevity just nails it. Our health span has not kept pace with our lifespan. So we've gotten really good at engineering longer lives, but we haven't yet figured out how to engineer longer, healthy lives. And that creates a gap, a pretty significant gap. Okay, so we've identified the gap. We're living longer, but not necessarily better. The million-dollar question now is, what can we do about it? Right? How do we start closing that gap and line up our health span with our lifespan? Let's start with the stuff we can actually control as individuals. What's so interesting about a longevity-focused diet is how simple the guiding principles really are. This isn't some crazy, complicated fad. It's basically about getting back to basics. We're talking more whole foods, vegetables, legumes, fatty fish, and way less of the processed junk, red meat, and sugary stuff. I love this rule of thumb. If your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food, you probably shouldn't eat it. All right, so diet is foundational. But, of course, the conversation always turns to supplements. And on that topic, we need to bust a pretty common myth, one that's been hanging around for a very, very long time. Okay, so you've heard this one, right? For decades, the story was that popping antioxidant pills was the secret to anti-aging. This whole idea was based on something called the free radical theory of aging, which came out of the 1950s. The theory was that these rogue molecules were causing damage and making us old. But you know what? Science has pretty much moved on. We now know the aging process is way more complicated than that. And big studies have shown that most of those antioxidant supplements just don't work. Some, like high doses of vitamin A and E, can even be harmful. So if antioxidants aren't the answer, where is the cutting-edge research heading now? Well, instead of just fighting symptoms, scientists are targeting the fundamental causes, the actual mechanisms of aging itself. And this has led to some really compelling studies on a whole new class of compounds. You'll see things like fisetin, which helps clear out old junky cells, or alpha-ketoglutarate, AKG, and NMN, which are involved in keeping our cellular engines running. The goal here isn't just to patch up damage, it's to keep our cells functioning like they're younger for longer. But here's the thing. Our personal choices, diet, supplements, they're super important, but they can only take us so far. To really, truly close this health span gap, we have to think bigger. We need to rethink the entire structure of our lives, even our society. I absolutely love this analogy from the Stanford Center on Longevity. For most of human history, we lived in a time famine. Now, suddenly we're standing at a longevity buffet. And that's the problem, isn't it? We're at this incredible buffet, but we're still using this old, totally broken map of life. You know the one. You learn for about 20 years, you work for 40, and then you just stop. You retire. This rigid, straight-line path makes absolutely no sense for a 100-year life. We need a new map,
what some people are calling an open-loop life. So what does this new map actually look like? Well, it's all about flexibility. It means a life that has multiple stages, where learning never really stops. Imagine a life where you can take a sabbatical in your 40s to recharge your batteries, or pivot to a whole new career in your 50s, and that's considered normal. Or maybe even doing a returnship in your 70s to share your wisdom with a younger generation. It's about designing a life that you can actually sustain, and more importantly, really enjoy for a full century. So you see, whether we're talking about the food on our plate, the supplements we take, or the very structure of our careers, the mission is exactly the same. The ultimate goal here is simple, really. It's to make our health span equal our lifespan, so that our last years can be just as vibrant as our best ones. Okay, let's do a super quick recap of the big takeaways here. First, we've been given this incredible gift, an extra 30 years of life. Second, the big challenge now is to make sure those are healthy years by focusing on our health span. Third, your individual choices, especially around diet and the right supplements, really do matter. And finally, to truly thrive in this new reality, our whole society needs a new map of life. And that brings us to the final big picture thought I want to leave you with. The 20th century gave us this unbelievable gift of time. So the great challenge, and honestly the great opportunity, of the 21st century is this. How are we, you and I and all of us together, going to choose to use it?